Welcome to the Voice of Truth. Dad, use my James Earl Jones voice.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
dude.
use my James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I like that. Good acoustics in here.
Good acoustics. Jim Moore, Jeff Arnold, good to be with you.
Greetings to everybody.
Greetings.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday again. Goes quick, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They say the older you get, it's just like a roll of toilet paper. The smaller the roll gets, the faster it goes. You know, finding
Good
out the
analogy.
truth.
Yeah. Good analogy. Guys, we've been talking all week about this legion out of Mark 5, demon possession. And what we've seen so far is kind of a recap here real fast so we can finish this lesson up today. Was this story begins with the calming of the sea. And we kind of see a contrast in Mark's gospel to Matthew's gospel about calming the sea. And now these disciples are now more afraid of Jesus than they were of the sea. And then right after this, they come on to the shore of the Gadarenes because Jesus wants to go to the other side. And we've seen how this was the first time that Jesus has really left the confines of Galilee to go outside of the area. We'd seen the political tension here of this land on this side of the sea is Gentiles. It's the Jewish people who didn't want to live in the squalor of Galilee who had went over there. Plus it's the area of the outcast ones. And the Jews over here are waiting on Messiah to come, run the Romans out who now occupy everywhere, run them out, give them their land back. So there's a lot of hostility. And as soon as Jesus walks off the ship, when they get to this land of the Gadarenes, we saw that this naked man meets him there who's been cutting himself, living amongst the tombs. The chains can't hold him. So the guy's politically unclean. He's religiously unclean. He's socially unclean. The Romans don't want him. The Gentiles don't want him. The Jews don't want him. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he says, "Legion." And the story up to this point is now Jesus tells the legion, which we saw was a specific Roman garrison of legions, a specific number of troops. This is a military term here, not a satanic term. It's a military term. And Jesus cast out this legion, 6,000, how many did I say it was? 6,826. Jesus cast out this legion of Roman occupation that go into the unclean swine, run down the cliff, and drown in the sea. So there's a lot going on here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, there's a scholar, I read a lot of scholars who read Bible commentaries, stuff like that. But this guy, Dominique Crowson, he points out that the pig, while yet another symbol of what's unclean for the Jewish people, is also the very symbol of the 10th Roman legion. And it's that very legion that would eventually conquer Jerusalem only a couple decades after Jesus' death, around the time the Gospels, especially Mark, was being written. And that's an interesting note, because I know that, like when we were in the Marine Corps, we talked about it Monday, we had our little battalion flags. Even though we went under the banner of the American flag, we still had our own little battalion or platoon flags. So these would have had the same one. And the 10th Legion, their symbol was a pig.
Well.
And they were the ones who conquered Jerusalem in 70 AD.
How about that? That's very interesting.
That's interesting. It's a little side note there.
Yeah.
So this is a story that is meant to show, it's meant to show Jesus as the salvation that his followers have been waiting for. Right? They're waiting on the one who's going to come and give them the land back. But in a very different way than they expect, even in a way that might scare them to death. Because this whole time they've had a mindset of what the Messiah is going to be. He's going to show up. When we talked about Holy Week, and if you remember Holy Week, Pilate rides in on a war horse on this side of town, signifying, hey, don't you mess around because I'm here to put you down if you get out of line. Mm-hmm. Jesus rides in on a donkey, which was the symbol, I come in peace. When Caesar would leave town to go on a battle, or when any king would leave town to go on a battle, they would ride a war horse. And all the people would be in a parade. And they would, our king is going off to battle. When he come back, he would come back on a donkey, kind of chilling out, with his slaves behind him saying, look at the victory. You don't ride into your city on a war horse. Because the people would think, oh my God, he's riding into the city. He's going to make war on us. So this symbol here. So they have a symbolic mindset of what their Messiah is going to be. How he's going to come in like David. Oh, thou son of David. Mm-hmm. He's going to come in with his mighty army and his general Joab. And they're going to come into town and put you Romans out and put you in your place.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to put our foot on your throats and we're taking it over.
That's the same as thought today.
It's very thought today. Jesus is going to come back 1 foot on the Mount of Olives, 1 foot on the Mount Jerusalem, and sword in his hand, and look out. Mm-hmm. Armageddon.
Oh, yeah.
But see, Jesus, he comes in and he does the very thing that they're longing to do. They don't even get it. They don't even get it. He goes in and conquers a legion.
And they don't get it.
And they don't get it. I mean, in a lot of ways, this is the continuation of the story of Mark 4, of Jesus calming the sea. These disciples are scared to death of Jesus who comes to them, who represents salvation for them, but who does that in a way that catches them off guard. And listen, I know what we think. Maybe we'll do a lesson sometime on salvation, but what is salvation? Man, I got my ticket to heaven. That's all salvation is. But now it showed up and it's like, time out. I didn't know salvation could talk to the wind. Time out a minute. Time out a minute. I didn't know salvation was going to be casting out legions. I didn't know that we were, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, now wait a minute. I want salvation. I want to go to heaven when I die, but I want you to leave me alone in my little clique while I'm here.
Right.
You're asking me to get out of my little clique here. And I don't want to go do all this. So now these disciples are scared. It catches them off guard. This is coming to them in ways that are not expecting. It challenges them. Everything they've come to hope for in a Messiah. Wow. And imagine that. Imagine what Jesus' disciples are thinking in this story. They're living it. What are you thinking in this story? You know? We read it, it's just words on a page that happened 2,000 years ago. We don't really care. Or we interject ourselves, oh, I'm the Gadarean guy. Come on, man. Come on, let's get real here. Let's be real. I mean, it starts, they can't believe Jesus is even willing to talk to this man. I mean, for one thing, you remember one time Jesus in a room, and this woman comes up and begins to wash his feet with her tears and pour ointment on him. And you remember one of the Pharisees said if he knew what manner of woman it was,
he would not allow her to touch him.
Right. So the disciples are thinking this kind of same thing. Like, I mean, this ain't just some dude. This is a guy that's got blood all over him, living in a graveyard, and he's naked. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that you even
just like we talked about before. I mean, Jesus, he touched a leper, for crying out loud.
I know.
He touched a leper. He interacts with this guy, asks him his name. Mm-hmm. I mean, even from the very beginning, Matthew, you know, I love that, where Matthew is sitting at the receipt of customs, and people pretty much spit when they think of a guy sitting there being a traitor and just collecting taxes.
Yeah.
He's a traitor to the Jews.
Oh, yeah.
And the scripture says, and Jesus walked by and saw a man.
Yeah.
Not a dog.
Yeah.
like everybody else called
Yeah,
him.
not a traitor.
Spit when they said his name.
Yeah.
He saw a man.
Yeah. And
Well, that's how Jesus looks at humanity. I mean, he looks at this guy.
mm-hmm.
You know, he ain't wrote him off like everybody else.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, you know, the disciples are asking these questions, you know, like, why is this man even worth Jesus' time? You know, I mean, the Romans don't even want this guy around. I mean, he's not some big guy we're going to put up on the podium.
That's right.
And you know what? This guy was going to do that. And Jesus said, buddy, stay right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could have paraded him around like all the churches. Oh, we delivered this guy and we got him saved. We're going to put him on the platform and tell your testimony. Jesus said, no, you stay right there. Stay right there. Man, he does everything just the opposite of what we think or want him to do. And then this allegory, it begins to unfold. As Jesus, instead of walking by and brushing this guy off, he actually stops and asks him his name. He engages with this man. He finds out what it is that oppresses this man. Right? All of this is a question we talked about. He loves this man. And all of a sudden, this outcast, this unimportant, less than human being steps in to represent both someone who was oppressed and everything that stands between the Jewish people and their destiny. He stands for both. Everything that is oppressive and everything that stands between the Jews and their destiny. So so you see, these are big stories. And the thing that kept the Jews away from their destiny was what oppressed them. The Romans or whoever it was all through history. And now sometimes they're one and the same, and Jesus, rather than choosing to further dehumanize this man as a representation of what's wrong with empire, he does exactly the opposite. Rather than creating another casualty of this war by ignoring this guy, dismissing this guy, he demonstrates to his followers that Jesus can dismantle an entire empire, the Roman Empire, the Legion of Rome, without firing a single shot or drawing a single sword.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely contrary to every basically American church is preaching. Separate us from that group. Take us to glory and get rid of them.
Yeah.
But Jesus was not ready to get rid of this guy when everybody else was.
Yeah. And he shows in that the dismantling of the Roman Empire. And he didn't do it with a sword.
Right.
He did it with a word.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes from the Lord.
You see? Now they're waiting on the legion to be cast out. Jesus is right there with the disciples, and he cast legion out. It wasn't demons. It was the Roman garrison, the soldiers, the occupiers, the oppressors, the ones that stand between you and your destiny. Right? All of these things, all of that is in the story. And this commonwealth of Jesus won't be won through battles or coercion. When I say the commonwealth of Jesus, I could say it another way, more biblical way, the kingdom. I like to say the commonwealth. We live in Virginia. It's called a commonwealth. There's something to that. It won't be won, guys, listen to me here. It's not going to be won with battles with force or coercion.
Right. That's right.
Never. It will instead come through the unpopular practice of visiting even on the outside of our story, or not visiting, inviting everyone who's on the outside into our experience of the Lord. Inviting those on the outside.
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to get through to folks is when you're thinking that Jesus is descended from heaven and that he's going to stand one foot on one place and one on the other and start casting people off and start receiving this one and casting this one down, think again, because he cares for even this man this man that was completely outcast, and a leper, and a woman that was caught in the act of adultery,
Yeah.
and a woman that washed his feet with her tears. I mean, he is showing us, Jesus Christ is showing us the Father. The Father's heart. It's not like they're separated. He's showing us the Father's heart. We're seeing it in his face.
Yeah.
This is how Father believes.
Yeah.
This is how Father thinks of us. So, if we can get a hold of that, dude, it's a better...
It changes everything. Yeah.
It changes everything.
Yeah. And think about it. We are, all of us, often waiting for a Messiah that will cast out the legions of our enemies that oppress us and restore our political will. A Messiah who will down the empires that we think oppose us and create in their place a new, more powerful version of the exact same kind of perversion. This is one of the things, because next week we're going to look at 666 and Antichrist and all that other stuff. And one of the things that I see here, and this is what we want, you remember the beast in Revelation 13, his head gets cut off, and what happens? Grows another one.
Yeah.
And guys, that's a picture of government. You cut one head off and another one comes back. You get rid of this dictator, another one comes.
Always.
You get rid of a monarch, you get this other, and all of them bring oppression. All of them but one. So we're praying for this kind of thing to be taken down, only to give way to another set of oppression.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's all. One oppression to another. We thought, oh my gosh, we live in America. We're land of the free. Are you? I think last week was tax day. I didn't feel free. I don't know about you, but I didn't feel free. I hope that doesn't get us taken off of YouTube, but I was looking at that and I'm thinking, my God, how much I got to pay on this money?
How much I got to pay for this freedom?
Yeah, how much are we paying for this freedom? Yeah, but Jesus, he uses this occasion here to teach us that salvation over empire, whatever it is, I'm using a Roman Empire, but whatever it is, that oppresses us, is not going to be won through any type of military industrial complex. It's not. Anywhere. We're wasting our time, we're wasting our money. It's won, W-O-N, when we help people find a new identity outside of the stories that have defined and limited them and oppressed them. When they find a new identity. This thing that Malcolm talks about all the time, this identity in Christ. When we recognize that freedom from oppression means freedom from oppression for all that we encounter. Let me say that again. When we recognize, I'm going to say this and make a comment. When we recognize that freedom from oppression, for me, for you, means freedom from oppression for all that we encounter. I'm telling you, we grew up in such a narrow-minded group that we thought freedom only meant being able to preach. Mm-hmm. That was all it was. Oh, I've got liberty to preach.
Yeah. And what we're looking for, I mean, people want a utopia. You know, they want a perfect world. And they think it can come by force. They think it can come by American might or American military, or we have peace through strength and all that. That's garbage.
Yeah.
If you want to see the kingdom of heaven, then hearts change. Every heart changes.
That's right.
I mean, then, I've heard it said, if people would just obey the law, you wouldn't have to lock your doors at night. You wouldn't have to listen. If the heart changes, if your heart changes, believe me, everything else follows suit.
Yeah.
If you love your neighbor, you sure don't covet your neighbor's wife.
Yeah.
If you love your neighbor, certainly you don't steal.
Right.
From them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
You love your mom and dad, you're going to honor them.
Right.
I mean, it's just that simple. It's not a matter of, I got this rule book, I need to follow it.
Right.
But I'm carnal, so that's not going to happen.
Right.
No, it's a change of heart. Let this mind be in you. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
A mind change.
Yeah. And when you understand and when you begin to sense this liberty, freedom from oppression, it can be liberating and scary. Because it means that salvation is not just the application of force in our favor. It's fundamentally reordering of our world.
Mm-hmm.
Reordering of our world.
I think this very guy that we're talking about experienced a mind change.
Oh, yeah. You know, salvation, this term again, all of this, I mean, we're getting this acted out part here, but a way that helps us to see the other, that guy, that Gadarene, that outcast of all outcasts, to see that other very different than we once used to.
Absolutely.
Because we used to call them the them.
Oh, yeah.
The those, the they. And when I hear Jesus ask this question, let's go back to this question he asked the disciples. Why are you so afraid? I would ask the people that we were around, why are you so afraid? That's a question, isn't it? Those people who are watching who know where that question's coming from, why are you so afraid?
Yeah.
Jeff and I has been sitting there in meetings that took all day long while the daggers were thrown and the swords were cut. And it was like, my God, we have to protect our identity. We got to protect our culture. We got to protect. If we lose it, man, we're gone.
If we lose it, we're lost.
We're lost. We're so scared.
And that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so true.
Yeah. We're so scared. And Jesus is saying, why are you so afraid? I'm asking you, why are you so afraid? Why are you afraid of these people coming across the border? Why? Why are you so afraid of the Chinese? Why are you afraid of the Russians? Why are you afraid of the Ukrainians? Why are you afraid of the school board? Why are you afraid of the LGBTQ? Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid?
That's a good question.
We're afraid of everything. Mm-hmm. And our politicians will make sure that we stay afraid.
Oh, yeah, you better believe it.
We want to be afraid. Why are you afraid?
I mean, you hear it all over the news.
Uh-huh.
What are your biggest fears? Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, well, text us your biggest fears.
Yeah.
It's on Fox News. It's on NBC News. No matter what, what's your biggest fear?
Yeah. I mean, I hear this ringing back to me. Why are you so afraid of the idea that I love you completely as you are? And at the same time, why are you so afraid of the idea that I love your enemies in exactly the same way? Boy, that's a question, isn't it?
It sure is.
That's a question, because I thought there was vessels of wrath fitted for destruction, and we're the lambs and we're the sheep and they're the goats, and God likes us and he punishes them, and he all this thinking nonsense, and he says love your enemies, do good to them that use you, because Jesus did. He loves you exactly the way you are, and he loves the people you hate the same way he loves you.
That's exactly right. Amen.
Wow. Why are you so afraid of that? Because it's scary. Mm-hmm. It was scary to Matthew and Mark and Luke. It's scary to us.
Because I have an identity that I need to protect. Right?
Yeah.
I have an individuality that I need. It goes right back to the initial lie.
Yeah. I mean, why are you so afraid of the ideal of what your world could be completely free from? The fear of the other, of the them. You don't even know what your world would look like, but you're afraid of it.
That's because it's different.
Yeah. Then we see Jesus. We see Jesus cross the lake and get out of the boat and show us that sometimes to really imagine ourselves unafraid of our neighbor, unafraid of those that we've been told that we're supposed to hate, unafraid of those that we've been conditioned to be afraid of. And this is sometimes the scariest thing that we can think of, and the source of our salvation. We ask people to come here to preach sometimes, they won't come. Why?
They're afraid.
They're afraid. And Jesus asked, why are you so afraid? I mean, if I preach this doctrine in the church, if I preach this, man, I know what they would do to me. Maybe they will.
Well,
They did it to Jesus. Why are you so afraid? The question still comes back. Why are you so afraid? I mean,
you could just leave that question out there and people could answer it for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
But I can tell you this, when the blind man's parents and they asked who done the sin, they were afraid to answer.
Oh, yeah.
They wouldn't answer because they would lose their seat. Where? In the synagogue.
Yeah.
He's of age, ask him. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Don't ask me. I don't want responsibility for my answer.
See, our salvation starts with realizing that we don't need an enemy, a scapegoat, to know ourselves as loved. You see, this is why this doctrine of election and predestination, or the sheep and the goats, is because they're afraid. They're afraid. Really, the bottom line of it is fear. We can go all the way. I can prove it to you with scriptures. Because, man, you mean he can love me just as I am, and he can love you just as you are? Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. I mean, I don't know if I feel special. That's kind of scary to me. Because you do things different. You look different. You're taller. You're shorter. You're whatever. It's all different.
You're brown. You're black. You're yellow.
Yeah.
And are you telling me that God loves that individual? He made it real evident to me one time.
Yeah.
It changed my whole world.
Oh, yeah.
And it's revelation.
Yeah. See, we don't need to dehumanize anyone to believe in justice and peace. All we need is an awareness of our belovedness, a conviction that everyone we meet bears the same value. Listen, one of these days we're going to do a lesson on the sheep and the goats, but I can promise you it will not be how it's been preached to us. Because truthfully, I never was a sheep and I wasn't a goat. I'm made in the image of God, just like you are.
Yeah. I mean, if you know the value of your fellow man, mm-hmm. if you know their value, because most people know their own, or at least they perceive their own value.
Yeah.
But this other guy, he doesn't have as much value as I do.
He's not an elder.
But if you have the same value for that individual, that when Jesus said, "As the Father has sent me, I send you." Because you cannot be sent to a people that you think are less than.
Or you'll
just
walk on them.
Sure.
You'll make them your servants.
Whack them over the head with the Bible, or slap them up the head with the Ten Commandments, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you won't be sent. Not as he was sent. No. That's what he said. I'm sending you as I was sent. Right? As I was sent. And how was he sent? Now that's a good question.
To lay his life down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To lay his life down.
Yeah. Not to lord over them in the sense that we would take. And you know, when you understand that your enemies, your ones who you deem as less than, bear the same value, and then you have the courage to work towards upholding all of that in the world around us, through all of our choices, all of our actions, all of our conversation, all of the ways that we refuse to dehumanize those who we've been told are against us, less than us, away from us, apart from us. And I know sometimes a life without fear is scary because we don't know who we are without an enemy. We don't know how to act unless we got somebody to hate. We don't know how to be a preacher unless we got somebody to put down, somebody to cast out, right? We just don't know how. So it's scary. Why are you so afraid? Mm-hmm. Why are you so afraid? And guys, that's where salvation begins. It's where it begins. And when we stop seeing the people around us as the other, as the goats, the enemies, as people to be afraid of, we start understanding that our freedom is essentially closely connected to freeing every person that we encounter from the oppression that oppresses them.
Yeah.
We want them to be free as well.
That's right.
So we can see these stories, are very sophisticated stories. And they layer together political, religious, social constructs that keep us separated from each other. We can set aside the arrogance. I don't know another word to use there. That we have especially when we read these stories, the way we understand these stories and demon possessions and legion and exorcisms and all that, we lay all that and we understand that the scriptures are speaking to a very human experience. A human experience of feeling separated, of feeling like some people are beneath us, unclean, distance from us. You know, all of these crazy things that we use for separation. And in that, I hope it makes the Bible more engaging to you, to understand all of the ways that truth and meaning have been embedded into all kinds of stories throughout our history. And that we could see this is just another story, another teaching moment of Jesus going to the outcast of all outcasts, asking him what his name. But before he asked him what his name is, he asked the disciples, why are you so afraid?
Yeah.
And all of this woven together to show us that Jesus has answered the Jewish cry of relief from their oppressors. Mm-hmm. That the unclean man is now restored back socially, politically, religiously. The disciples have no need to be scared. You can see all of that right here in these little bit of these stories.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do with Hollywood, exorcisms, devils.
That's right.
All of this stuff.
I want to read the end of this.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I want you to think about this. And they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion, sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid.
Again.
Yeah. And they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine, and they began to pray him to depart out of their coast. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. Jesus just took a man and spoke. And this man was bloody, cutting himself, dwelling among tombs,
naked,
fetters, naked, the whole nine, completely outcast from all of humanity. And Jesus spoke him clean, and they were afraid and asked him to leave. Why does that not blow your mind? That they asked him to leave.
They asked Jesus to leave, yeah.
And when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. So he wanted to say, howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but saith to him, go home. I like this right here. Go home to thy friends and tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men marveled. Now, there's a lot there that it was astounding to me that those that kept those pigs seen everything that was done and said, Jesus, please leave.
Yeah. I mean, this is too
They
much.
were afraid, of course.
Yeah.
Please leave.
I can say this. And look, I'm going to tell you something.
I think that's astounding.
I want to tell you something. I've told this experience before. I won't go through it a whole lot. Big and brash and bold. A lot of times we pray, Lord, show us your glory. Oh, Moses, I want to see your glory, Lord. I'm telling you, when I was in the room and the glory came in the room, I asked for him to leave. I did.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you because it was so much. So when I read this story and the disciples are scared of Jesus, and when the people of the Gadarenes are scared of Jesus, I get it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you what, there are a ton of churches out there, and it's okay, that have asked Jesus to stay on the outside or to stay over there. We'll holler if you need to, because it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's too scary. And I understand that. So I hope we would let that question sink in.
Yeah.
Why are you so afraid? I will ask the Baptist people, why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid?
Christians in general.
Christians in general.
Yeah. That's a good question for
Our
everybody.
country, why are you so afraid? Our peoples and our communities, why are you so afraid? I get it, guys. I get it.
Good lesson.
Good lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. And next week, we hope to get in the number 666 and the Antichrist, which I think will kind of follow up a little bit on this story. Maybe we can kind of see what's going on. So tune in.
Yeah, look for it. Send us comments. We like them. We got a big hit a couple Mondays ago, and
Yeah.
a lot of people watched. And then I guess they were intrigued by the ashes of the red heifer.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate everybody
Oh,
that
we
watched.
do. We do. Really enjoy it.
Even if somebody said it was boring.
Don't matter.
Yeah, it's okay.
You had to watch it to know it was boring. Yeah, so it's good. We hope you learn it. We hope you learn it.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
And two, I want to say, like I said last week, this is a rated R program. This is for mature audiences, right?
Yeah.
So if you've never cracked the lids of the book, this may be too deep. You need to look at it maybe, and then you'll follow along better. So I encourage you to read the scripture, and then you'll know what he's talking about.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know if I do. Anyway, guys, Lord bless.
God bless.
See you next week. Don and Jeff and myself, we really want to thank you guys for tuning in. You don't know what it means to us to have you guys listening. The one thing that you could do to help us out is hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Ask questions in the comments if you want. I am going to leave a link. I'll post it down below for our church services on Wednesday and Sundays. I put those on a different YouTube channel. So I will share that with you guys, give you the link so you can go see what time. We would love to have you come and join us. And, we just love putting out this voice of truth, having our discussions. What you see is what you get. We try to put them out every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 9 a.m. I will tell you I'm a full-time pastor, but I also work full-time. Jeff works full-time, so it's hard for us to do those things all the time. But again, we're so thankful you tune in. Thank you for all the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. You can hit the notification button. You'll know when they're coming out. And guys, again, we are so thankful that you're tuning in. Thank you so much. We will keep bringing this stuff to you. And we will see you again. Lord bless.